Your body is this incredible, complex orchestra with trillions of cells all playing their part in perfect harmony. But who's the conductor? Who's actually sending out the signals that tell everyone what to do and when to do it? Well, today we're diving into that invisible world of hormones, our body's secret controllers.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. What is that invisible force that makes you feel on top of the world one moment and totally wiped out the next? Or suddenly starving? Or, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m.? Yep. The answer, almost every single time, is hormones.
And that's exactly what they are. The easiest way to think about hormones is like your body's own private text messaging system. They're these little chemical messages sent from one part of the body to another, carrying instructions that, well, control pretty much the whole shebang. So, what happens when those text messages don't get delivered, or when the person on the other end just isn't picking up their phone? That brings us to our first huge example, the system that controls our blood sugar, and what happens when it all breaks down, leading to diabetes.
Okay, what's so fascinating about this is how it boils down a really complex disease into a simple communication problem. With type 1, the message, that's the insulin, it's just never sent. The factory that makes it is broken. But with type 2, the message gets sent out just fine. But the cells on the receiving end, it's like their phone is on silent. They've become resistant to the message.
All right, so how is this supposed to work when everything's going right? This slide lays it out perfectly. Just think of insulin as a key. It floats through your blood and fits perfectly into a receptor, the lock, on the outside of your cell. That sends a signal inside that basically yells, "Open the door." And this special doorway, called GLUT4, moves to the surface and lets all that sugar rush in to be used as fuel. No key or a busted lock, and that sugar is just stuck outside. For type 2 diabetes, the treatments are really all about fixing that broken communication line. You can see two main approaches here. You've got drugs like metformin, which basically crank up the volume on the cell's receiver, making it way more sensitive to the insulin that's already there. Then you've got other drugs like sulfonylureas that go right back to the source and tell the pancreas, hey, they're not listening, send more messages louder. Of course, there's a flip side. You gotta be careful. If you push the system too hard and too much sugar gets pulled out of the blood, you get hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. And your body starts ringing all the alarm bells. You get sweaty, your heart races, you feel intensely hungry. That's your brain screaming that it's being starved of fuel. It's a really critical warning sign you have to pay attention to. All right, let's switch gears. We're moving from how the body manages its fuel to its overall engine speed. And this whole system is controlled by a little butterfly-shaped gland in your neck called the thyroid. The thermostat analogy is just perfect. The hormones your thyroid makes, T3 and T4, they basically set the pace for how quickly your cells burn through energy. They decide your metabolic rate, how fast your body's engine is running, even when you're just sitting still. And when that thermostat is busted, man, the effects are huge. You can see it right here. If the engine is running way too slow, that's hypothyroidism. Everything slows down with it. You feel tired, cold, you gain weight. But if that engine is revving way too fast, hyperthyroidism, you were just in constant overdrive. You're anxious, hot, your heart is racing, you're just burning up energy like crazy. So the whole point is getting back to that sweet spot, that balance. And luckily, the solutions are pretty direct. If the engine's too slow because you're missing the hormone, you add it back in. That's what levothyroxine does. If it's going too fast, use drugs that tell the thyroid to just chill out and produce less, or in some cases, you use a little radioactive iodine to safely slow the gland down. Okay, next up is a word that pretty much everyone has heard, but honestly, very few people really understand: steroids. They get this one-track reputation, but in reality, they're this huge, diverse class of hormones with two totally different phases. The first phase, this is the body's emergency response team. Glucocorticoids like cortisol are our own built-in, super powerful anti-inflammatories. So when your immune system is just going haywire, we're talking asthma, a nasty allergic reaction, an autoimmune disease, these are the hormones or the drugs that act like them that get called in to put out the fire. And then there's the second phase. This is the body's architect, its regulator. These are the sex steroids, like testosterone and estrogen. And yeah, they control reproductive cycles, but they're also these incredible tools in medicine. They're used for everything from contraception and hormone replacement therapy, all the way to really targeted treatments for certain types of cancer.
So we've seen hormones that manage our fuel, that set our energy levels, that control inflammation and reproduction. But what controls them? We've finally arrived at the master conductor of this whole system, the pituitary gland.
I absolutely love this quote because it just nails it. This tiny pea-sized gland at the base of your brain doesn't just send its own messages. Its main job is to tell all the other glands, the thyroid, the adrenals, you name it, when it's their turn to release their hormones. It is literally directing the entire symphony.
And hey, for those of you who love a good memory aid, here you go. The main hormones coming out of the anterior pituitary can be remembered with this mnemonic: flat peg. And the key thing to get here is that the flat hormones are the ones that talk to other glands, the managers, while the peg hormones go out and act directly on body tissues themselves. It's the difference between the boss giving an order and a worker actually doing the job.
So from our mood to our metabolism, we are just completely governed by this delicate, invisible dance of chemical messengers. What we've seen is just how incredibly complex and beautiful this whole system is. And it leaves us with one final thought. We exist in the state of perfect hormonal balance. So what happens to our health, to our minds and our bodies when modern life starts to push that balance way too far?